Hi and welcome, Peter Lessard from the Next Million Agency. Within the first 2 minutes of this video, I'm going to show you a methodology that we use for our customers to use irrational behavior to make money. And we've actually increased the bottom lines of companies over the course of a 12-month period by more than $1 million in gross sales by using the lessons that I'm about to show you. Now, in the first 2 or 3 minutes of this video, I'm going to go real quick and I'm going to show you the basic concept. I'm going to go on afterwards for another 5 minutes if you're really interested in the subject and show you another example. And then I'm going to post a link in the comments below if you want to take a real deep dive and do some reading on this. Now, this is simple in nature, but it comes from the study of behavioral economics. And there's a book that really espouses us really well called Predictably Irrational. But let's get into the really quick example of how you can get consumers to buy more of one product or another product and even increase overall sales when they wouldn't have purchased anything anyways. So let's dumb this down for the first couple of minutes and use a really simple example. We're going to use this as an analogy here. We have an orange and an apple. This could be any products that you sell. It could be different brands of products, different brands of cars, air conditioning, packages on a website. It doesn't matter what it is. What you're looking for is to have two items that are not easily compared. An apple and an orange is not something that you can offer a direct comparison of. And what you're going to find when you're trying to market to the masses is that the masses have this incredible urge deep down in their brain to be able to easily compare something before they make a purchase. So if you offer them, I don't care whether it be a hard product kind of service, a downloadable item or coaching or anything of that nature, if the offers that you're making to them are not easily comparable, they're actually going to leave and go try and make comparisons somewhere else and you're going to lose the sale. And all things being equal, you're going to suffer from really poor sales of those particular items. And this seems completely irrational, but behavioral economists have tested this over and over again, that if, for example, you wanted to sell more of the orange, your margins are better, it's not selling well, you're selling apples all the time, but you're having a problem with these, then the way to do it is not what you would normally think. You would normally think, well, I need to make the orange more attractive. I need to talk more about the orange and its benefits. I need to write better copy about the orange, or I need to decrease the price of the orange. The truth of the matter is that everything can remain exactly the same, and you just need to introduce one thing: a comparable. Just put a comparable beside it that is slightly less attractive. So the orange here, I've purposely chosen one that's not quite as attractive as this orange. It's not quite as ripe. But now if you're on a website or you're doing a presentation or people are shopping in a store, and you're going to start to see this if you pay attention, as long as there's two instances of one of the products, what happens is a dramatic shift. If these two items were selling at a 50-50% margin, the apple and the orange were selling 50-50, and they're generally not, by introducing a comparable, and you can even keep the pricing the same, or you can have a very slight difference, but everything stays the same except for some reason, the one item is slightly more attractive than the other, you're going to change the shift from a 50-50 split to, we've seen the numbers go as high as 80%. So think about that for a second. You have two non-comparable items, even if they were selling equally at 50-50 each, just by putting a second close runner-up to one of those products, you can drive an extra 30% in sales to that particular one. So this doesn't seem rational, which is why behavioral economics was invented, because they noticed that human beings don't engage in rational behavior in some instances. So you need to understand that human beings need to be able to do a comparison of two things that are close to each other to make a buying decision. So the big mistake that you make is if you have different brands or different offers that are very different from each other, you're doing yourself a disservice. Your sales are going to be much lower than if you had a third option, which was almost identical to one of the offers, but just slightly better. Now, that's sort of the theory in a nutshell, but let me show you an example that's kind of mind-blowing, that is one of the examples that you can see in the book Predictably Irrational. So they ran a test, and I'm just going to sort of paraphrase this and do this as quickly as I can. They took pictures. Let's say you were to take pictures of two different individuals and put them on a sheet of paper. And one of them is Tom Cruise, and the other one is Brad Pitt. And you present it to an audience of females and ask them which man that they would like to date. So you have the one sheet of paper, with each of their pictures on it. Supposing there was a 50% split, you know, they're equally liked. This could be, the example could be a redhead and a brunette, it could be a blonde and a redhead, whatever the case, but we're going to use something that we can identify with. You end up with a 50-50 split of who people decide they want to date. They were able to influence this number by 30% in one direction simply by introducing another copy of one of these people that was slightly less attractive. So it just altered. So now what happens is they're actually giving the ladies a piece of paper, and it shows 2 instances of Tom Cruise, 1 of Brad Pitt. So this one remains the same as the first. This one they photoshopped and slightly altered it to make it just a little less attractive. And this one of Brad Pitt remains the same. All of a sudden they went from a 50-50 split to 80% of people choosing the more attractive version of the duplicate. They've repeated this experiment 100 different ways to Sunday. And all that it proves is that it's irrational. You know, economically or in a spreadsheet, you can't calculate this stuff. But for whatever reason, the human brain loves to be able to make a comparison of 2 slightly, different objects. It's very difficult for them to compare, somebody with dark hair, somebody with light hair, somebody with different facial features, and so they don't react to it well at all. But as soon as you interject a third, and they flipped the experiment, by the way, it didn't matter, which was the control. If they introduced a second version of Brad Pitt into the sheet and made a slightly less appealing version of him, then all of a sudden the shift went to 80% on this side. This has massive, massive ramifications for how you present information to your customers, and has massive ramifications to increase sales in general. And if you start to pay attention in restaurants and in all types of stores, it doesn't matter what it is, direct-to-consumer stuff, you're going to start to see, if you pay attention, that you're often being offered something that's sort of the decoy. So we could say that the uglier version or the less appealing version of Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt is the decoy, and it's just there for the basis of comparison. Sometimes you look at something and you'll say to yourself, why would anybody buy that one? The price is poor, or the warranty is not as good, or it's not as compact, or it's not as lightweight, or the motor's not as powerful. Those manufacturers or those advertisers have introduced that as a decoy. They're driving you to the more attractive version of that product. And the bottom line increases can be absolutely dramatic. So just figure out your margins on your best products, and you can actually drive the consumer to make a decision. So you're actually in a position where you can predict irrational behavior and use it to your advantage. And again, if you're doing scale and you're doing volume, you can make millions of dollars a year extra doing these kinds of things. Again, Peter Sard from the Next Million Agency. If you're looking for specific information on how this kind of strategy can be applied to your business, used in a holistic approach with a whole bunch of other stuff that we do, then visit thenextmillionagency.com and book an appointment with us, and we'll see if we can get you in the right direction to dramatically increasing your gross revenue.